flashlight, its beam shaking as he followed the cry. The basement door stood wide open. A strong wind howled from the darkness. The mother's hair blew wild. The family stood at the threshold looking at one another, then held hands and stepped down. They descended The family of four pulled up in front of an old, ivy-covered mansion. The sky hung low and gray, and the wind whispered through the tall trees. The father stepped out of the car, staring at the house with hesitation in his eyes. The two children, a boy and a girl, dashed excitedly inside. The mother stood on the porch, smiling faintly as she watched them. Inside, the children ran through a long, echoing hallway. The little girl stopped. On the floor, she spotted a tiny wooden hatch. She called out to her parents. The father inspected the house blueprint and firmly declared, "There is no basement." The mother, unsettled, locked the hatch tight with an old padlock. That night, silence filled the house. The boy awoke to a strange noise. He pressed his ear to the floor and heard whispers from beneath. He crept out of bed and stepped into the hallway, inching toward the hatch. Its heart trembled softly, as if something on the other side was knocking back. Suddenly his parents burst in and pulled him away. The mother held him tight, her eyes wide, fixed on the locked hatch. The father inspected it with a flashlight. The lock was still in place. The next morning, no one spoke at breakfast. The little girl sat silently, drawing a picture. A family torn apart by a black, jagged crack. That night, another sound. A loud creak. Then a crash. The girl sat up in bed, her blank eyes staring at the floor. The mother rushed over and held her. The girl whispered, "They're calling me." The next day, the father crawled on the floor, tapping at the planks. The boy drew again, this time a spiraling staircase, descending into darkness. The father turned pale at the sight. That evening, they sat again in silence. Then came the knocking. Louder. The father grabbed a hammer and flashlight and tore open the floor. A black void stared back. He shone his light into it. No bottom. The boy stood behind him and whispered, "There's someone down there." The mother slammed the hatch shut. The father nailed it closed, then pressed a red charm against the wood with shaking hands. That night, the girl sat alone, drawing herself, inside the basement. She looked into her mirror and saw not her own face, but a spiraling staircase descending endlessly. The mirror began to crack. The light in her room flickered. She smiled, a twisted, empty smile. A scream pierced the night. The entire family jumped awake. The mother leapt from bed, shouting the girl's name. The father rushed down the stairs with a flashlight, its beam shaking as he followed the cry. The basement door stood wide open. A strong wind howled from the darkness. The mother's hair blew wild. The family stood at the threshold looking at one another, then held hands and stepped down. They descended a spiraling staircase. At the bottom, they found a room. It was an exact copy of their living room, but draped in sheets, cobwebs, and silence. On the couch sat four figures, backs turned. When they slowly turned around, they saw themselves. But their skin was pale, their faces blank, their eyes white, empty, soulless. The girls double rose and extended her hand, inviting them forward. The door behind them slammed shut. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the sound of breath remained. Then, light returned. It was the house. Morning light filtered in. Everything was still. The family sat around the breakfast table, eating, smiling. But their eyes were empty. The girl sat at the window. She whispered, "Now, it's their turn." The camera slowly pulled away from the house. The forest was silent. Still, deep in the basement, the real family was trapped. Their hands scraped the stone walls. They screamed, but no sound came out. The little girl pounded the wall and cried, "We're the real ones!" Silence, then black, and a line of text appeared. They never left that house. And from somewhere below, the whispering returned.